Sports Talk here on a special day where the owner and CEO of Morrison Communication is celebrating his birthday. Visa denial cost KB Club their World Beach Soccer sport. Meanwhile, coming in from the wall of the Commonwealth Games, we understand Victoria will act as the host city. In football, UEFA Champions League returns with us whooping 28 goals scored across matches. Details of these and many more. We will return for the break. Stay with us. Talk here on the Atlantic Television Network, and I have Kingsley Manuel with me.
Thank you very much for having me, Siri. Very happy to be here this morning.
Well, as usual, we start from the local scene with just about 24 hours to the end of the National Youth Games ongoing in Asaba Delta. Pioneer Chairman of the Gombe Sports Commission, Madam Farouk Yama, has sent his congratulations, and of course, a token of 100,000 naira to Muya Kwarencha, Gombe State Zoo athlete at the National Youth Games in Delta State. He claimed 3 gold medals in gymnastics. He is just 13 years of age. Muya came out tops as the overall best with the spectacular winning the vault and also the floor events. This is sharing one athlete representing the state and taking home as many as 3 medals. Kingsley.
Lovely to say at this point in time, for the young lad, 13 years of age, and then putting up such an impressive performance in gymnastics. It's a sport we don't really venture in the country. And you wonder where, of course, you might have gotten such level of strength and talent, from. I think for me, it's a very good one. And at this point in time, I would say, since in the country where we don't really major more on gymnastics, we should be able to spot out these talents, and see how to probably groom them for future, competition. For me, it's a very good one. And for the fact that she's the only athlete from Gombe State at the current National Youth Games is actually speak volume, at this point in time. I actually listened to the director of sports down there in Gombe. What could be the reason why they only brought just one athlete? And she said it was actually circumstances beyond their control. And I wonder what could be, such circumstance. But for the young lad, Muya, 13 years of age, I think for me was really, really a spectacular performance. And at least 100,000 naira for such a lad could go at least a long way in getting her 1 or 2 things, of course, to keep her body and soul intact. For me, it was really, really an impressive performance from her.
100,000 naira from an individual. Let's hope and hear what the state government will do for its sole representative at the National Youth Games from Gombe State. We know of delegations as many as 60, 100, 200, even 300 delegations, representing states at the National Youth Games in Asaba. But for Gombe State, they sent only one, and that one has been very productive, if you ask me. Let's see at the end of the next 24 hours, at the end of the games, There could be one or two states that without a medal, and you see they had a large delegation. So when you look at it on the strength of cost of, benefit analysis, I'm very sure Gombe State will rank very high out there. Let's continue on the program. Nigerian Kevi Beach Soccer Club have missed out on the 2024 World Winners' Cup in Agherodas in Italy after the Italian embassy denied them visas to attend the 6-day tournament which began yesterday. What could be the reason given by the Italian embassy, Kingsley?
No concrete reason, from what we're saying. What we're saying, at this point in time, seeing delay, from Nigerian teams. The other time it was the basketball. They have under 18 basketball team, and now, of course, we're now seeing it for the beach soccer team. Not really, of course, an impressive one at all. With the way, of course, our sports team, of course, are being treated whenever they want to get out of the country to go honor, a game. For me, it was really, really disappointing one, and they have to give them a walkover in the first encounter, which, of course, they were supposed to play against a team, of course, from Copenhagen down there. And for me, it doesn't really, speak volume at this. It doesn't really go well at this point in time where we see teams down here in Nigeria being given such, kind of treatment. If you take a look at the BSC team down here, when it has to do with beach volleyball, they've actually done a lot. I think they won the last edition of the Beach Volleyball Championship down here in Nigeria. They're a very, very strong side, of course, to reckon with. But when we see things like this, it has a way of hinder or hampering the performance, of course, of a team. We saw what happened to the Junior D Tigers, in South Africa due to, visa delay and all of that. It's still the same thing now we're seeing at this point in time. So for me, I think when it has to do with the sport ministry should look into this and see how we can probably correct all of this, in the future, because if it continues like this, it has a way of, putting down the morale and the mentality of the players, heading down to any competition. So it's then time for we to look at all of this and see how to correct, these errors going forward.
Or what essence is it to compete on the local scene if you're not going to take your skill across to the continent and, of course, to the rest of the world? The BSC side from Kebbi State in beach soccer emerged as champions of Nigeria, and they were supposed to compete with their counterparts from Denmark, counterpart from Saudi Arabia, and their counterpart from Germany. And now their skills cannot be put to test with some of the world best in the beach soccer. We just hope that the authorities will, in the near future, ensure that there is proper documentation and time for these visas are properly strengthened out, so that you don't put up the hopes of the athletes just before they travel out. You are only to be told that they can't have visas. I'm sure the time has a lot to do with this, and administration must be up to it, Kingsley.
Yeah, definitely, and that's why I said, the sport ministry should weigh in so that we can stop all of this, from happening. Not when we want to honor competition, go for competitions like this, we always have visa issue. I made reference of the Junior D Tigers and the D Tigers. What happened to them where they wanted to head down to South Africa to play the under 18 Afro basketball championship. We saw how they struggled due to visa delay. In fact, I think the D Tigers, Junior D Tigers, they arrived a few hours, to their game time, and they lost the first encounter. So for me, it is not a very good one. I think the sport ministry should look into it. Whenever a team wants to go out, to honor a game, they should probably see how to make sure that, they make the proper documentation in time, not just making the documentation, but putting it in time so that we don't have, all of these hitches. Because at the end of the day, it looks as if maybe the players, they've prepared and they get themselves, equipped. But in issues like this can probably, hamper or hinder their, level of performance, at the end of the day. So I think for me, the sport ministry, including the federation as well, should make sure that things are done properly to avoid such, issues going forward.
It just have to be done properly to avoid hitches going forward. And now it's clear that Glasgow, Scotland, will host the 2026 Commonwealth Games after we saw Victoria pull out of it. Kingsley, Glasgow in Scotland will now be the venue of the 2026 Commonwealth Games.
Yes, I think for me, we've seen countries, trying to see how to take themselves off, from hosting this particular one. I think Australia actually opted out, from hosting it. And as well, one other country as well also opted out from hosting it as well. I think it's as a result of the cost of hosting this Commonwealth game. It takes a whole lot for you to put a Commonwealth game in a championship, and that's why we've seen these other countries, of course, opting out, from taking this one. But at least Glasgow coming up, I think they have what it takes. They've weighed themselves and feel that they have the facilities and the money, of course, to be able to put this one together. Not forgetting countries like Australia, I think Poland as well, also do that a huge amount of money, and I think it will also go a long way in making sure that they put the Commonwealth game once again in order. The last time we saw it, of course, was very fantastic. I think was in England, if I'm not mistaken. I think Birmingham. Last time we saw the Commonwealth game was a very good, outing we saw down there. Team Nigeria also had a little bit of an impressive, performance after not having a very good outing at the World Athletics Championship, which Toby Amusan actually put up a very impressive record. So this time is going to be another opportunity where we're going to be looking forward to see Team Nigeria coming up with a very impressive performance. For Glasgow, I think is a good one for them to take up the responsibility and seeing how to host the Commonwealth Games this time.
Glasgow, Scotland, 2026. Commonwealth Games, countries around the world will all converge, of course, Commonwealth countries will converge there, for games after Victoria in Australia pulled out, citing a high cost of hosting. Over £100 million, we understand, will be involved in this one.
Yeah, definitely. And of course, it takes a whole lot. And not only that, you also have to have the best of facilities as well, to put, this on ground. So it takes a whole lot. And that's why we're seeing these other countries, of course, opting out from hosting the competition. Before you put up such a championship, you must be very much ready, facility-wise, money-wise as well. And you have to make sure that you create a favorable environment, for the athletes to come participate. Not just the athletes, the officials, the fans as well. So there's a whole lot that is involved in hosting this one. But I think Glasgow taking this up, I think they have what it takes to be able to put this one together.
Get ready to go to Commonwealth Games, and it has to be, Glasgow in Scotland and not Victoria in Australia for 2026. From that Glasgow hosting right, I will now move over now to tennis. And in tennis, with the conclusion of all the Grand Slams of the year, all 4 Grand Slams concluded, tennis players are getting themselves busy with opens across both in the WTA and ATP. This time around in the WTA, Emma Raducanu got her Korea Open campaign off to a winning start with a very hard-fought victory, I must say, 7-6, 7-6 victory over American Puerto States only last night. Kingsley, like I said, Grand Slam are over, but you need to rake in points with the ATPs and the WTA. In this time, Emma Raducanu maybe falling short at big stage, but looking good with the WTA 500 and WTA 250 events, not 1,000 if you ask me.
Yeah, for me, falling short of when it has to do with Grand Slam performance, but when it has to do with WTA tournaments like this, I think she always try most can, to put herself down there. But I think so far, even in WTA as well, her performance has not been good enough. I think she's falling. She's not actually. She has not met up the expectation, from the fans ever since she won the US Open in 2021. She's not been the best of herself. Emma Raducanu is now ranked 70th now, in the WTA. For me, that's not the kind of position everyone expected her to be. When you take a look at the hype, surrounding her US Open performance in 2021, you definitely want to say she was a young talent, that could have been a force challenging, the likes of Iga Swiatek now. You talk about the likes of Arina Sabalenka, Jessica Pegula, but she's nowhere to be found, in that category. And for me, it's not a very good one. When you take a look at how the British media hype Emma Raducanu in terms of her performance. So for me, I think she should step up her game. This is an opportunity where she has to, of course, see her to rack up the points and get herself fit for the coming year. Of course, we expect the Australian Open 1st of January 2025, and we expect her, of course, to be in a very top shape at this point in time. We know things have not really gone well with her. She's had issues with parting ways with so many coaches, and as well, injury has not been the best of friends. We understand these are some of the things that will hamper her performance, but I think it's then time for her to align her thoughts and her mind, together and see what she can be able to do going forward.
STEM is ranked number 48 or so there in the world, up against 70th ranked Emma Raducanu. You should think that the better ranked player should win, but Emmanuel Kano had to dig deep. It took nearly 3 hours for this match to be in our favor. Like I mentioned, in straight set 7-6, 7-6. That was close.
Yeah, that was very, very close. That's why I said, Raducanu, yes, is still struggling to come up, to the limelight. Yes, we understand our opponents was ranked 48, well ranked, you say Dan Ha, but we'll see some of these things happen. So for me, I think despite the win, you take a look at it, it was a struggling one. That's to show that she still has a lot, of course, to do. Pedigree-wise, you give Emma Raducanu much prowess or much a chance than her opponent in this particular one. So for me, you take a look at the struggle, you still tend to see that she still has a long way to go in terms of climbing up the ladder. Well,
let's hope that Emma Raducanu will begin to find her peace and get through to the quality we expect of her after winning that Grand Slam from nowhere. I want to say in 2021, the U.S. Open, and everybody thought that India was a new kid on the block, but she's not been able to get to any, qualifying, let's say quarter-final stage of any competition thereafter. With the conclusion of the Grand Slams, let's hope that she can pick her pieces with the WTA tournament and get ready for the Australian Open that comes up in January next year. Let's go to boxing, and in boxing, there is sharing news. Ukraine President Vladimir Zelensky says heavyweight champion Alexander Usyk has been released after being detained at an airport in Poland. A lot of people had concern that heavyweight champion of the world, Usyk had been detained by uniform officials at the Polish airport.
Yeah, I think for me, it was a little bit of a controversial one because I think at the airport where he wanted to, take a flight down to, his next destination, and looking at the fact that he's also anticipating to be in the stand in the fight between Anthony Joshua and Daniel Dubois as well. I think for me, taking a look at what happened, he actually came out to say that it was a misunderstanding that really happened, and of course, up to now, the reason why he was detained has not been disclosed. For what we're seeing, we saw that concern even from the Ukraine president. We saw the concern as well from Usyk's wife, and as well the people of Ukraine, and some of his fans all over the world were so concerned of him being handcuffed. I think for me, according to him himself, talking about Usyk, he said it was a misunderstanding and everything was done and he has been released. And for me, that's a cheering news. Whatever happened, of course, down there in the airport, we'll hope maybe to hear more in the coming days. And it's not really a good time, of course, it wouldn't have been that very rosy if such, really happened to him. Or probably he was actually being detained and not being freed at the end of the day, because he has a bout, talking about the rematch against Alexander. I talked about the rematch against Tyson Fury on the 24th of December, and of course, if he has been detained, it means we probably might not see that one. But thank God the man is free now, and look forward to see him, of course, getting ready for the bouts against Tyson Fury come December 21st this year.
Talking about boxing, this weekend, the promises to be as a trailing one. The Bo, of course, will be up against Anthony Joshua. We understand about nearly 100,000 fans have already gotten their ticket for Wembley showdown between Nigerian and of course, British boxer Anthony Joshua against Dubois. This is promises to trailing. A lot of people can't really stick their neck where this fight would go. Your expectations, Kingsley?
Yeah, I really expect a lot from Anthony Joshua this time. Since, of course, we saw that back-to-back defeats between him and Alexander Usyk, the man has bounced back in a very, very impressive way. I think he has actually gotten, he has won 4 fights now in a row, and that's for me a very huge one. Of course, huge statement of intent, you say, for Anthony Joshua heading down to this bout against Daniel Dubois. The bout, of course, is going to, there's going to be a belt involved. That's the IBF belt, which the man, talking about, there's going to be a bet involved in this one, and for me, it's a good one for Anthony Joshua. Looking forward to, of course, get a belt, once again after we saw what happened between him and Tyson Fury. So it's going to be an impressive one. Joshua has been on a very good form. We hope he'll be able to replicate that form against Daniel Dubois this time. And don't forget, it's been a very long time. We saw a bout, of course, at the Wembley stadium, or probably in England. Most of the bouts we've seen these days have been in Saudi Arabia. And of course, you definitely will see that the fans, and of course, will be cheering Joshua for this particular one. So for me, it's a huge one. We look forward to see what comes up for Anthony Joshua. This is the time for him to redeem himself, because for taking a look at what happened between him and Alessandra Usyk, a lot of persons are saying that he's not up there anymore. And I think winning this one will give him a chance, of course, to be able to put himself on the limelight once again.
Well, let's hope that Nigerian Anthony Joshua will triumph this weekend at Wembley Stadium, where it has an opponent in Dubois. Everybody knows that Dubois is not a mean boxer. He's not a very, less mean boxer. So it's going to be very, very tough. Difficult to call, if you ask me. Time for us to take a break. We would like to take a break. And when we return from the break, we'll bring you some exciting stories from the world of football. What is happening this weekend across. And of course, actions last night in the UEFA Champions League. There was 10 goals in one match. Whoa. Across, we had as many as nearly 30 goals across the games that were played last night in Europe. When we return from a break, we'll let you know the goals galore that took place last night in the UEFA Champions League. Stay with us. Here on Atlantic Television Network. Don't forget, we told you how a sole candidate representing Gombe State has been rewarded for a feat, 3 medals at the games. Looking at cost-benefit analysis, it would be a very big one there. And we hope the government will properly reciprocate. We had a gesture of 100,000 coming from an individual, the former pioneer chairman of the Gombe State Sports Commission. Beyond that, I will tell you, this weekend, Anthony Joshua and Dubois will have their quest for International Boxing Federation heavyweight belt, at stake, presently held by Daniel Debo, and we've seen Anthony Joshua win 3 or 4 of his comeback fights. He will want to annex a title as well to it, and it could be becoming a 3-time world champion at the heavyweight category. Kingsley, just before we get started on the second part of the show, do you see Anthony Joshua, becoming 3 times heavyweight champion of the world?
Of course, there's a possibility, especially when you take a look at his current form, at the moment. You definitely want to give him that, chance against Daniel Dubois as well this time around. The man has been consistent. He's really improved, when he has to do.
He had about 4 victories on his comeback.
So for me, I think if he can build on that, definitely he can take down, Daniel Dubois this time around. He has what it takes. Joshua, of course, I think we've seen that revival in him. The fight against Alexander Usyk, where he was beating back-to-back, he wasn't that very active. Was not the Anthony Joshua, of course, we knew. But after then, he was able to bounce back. We saw what he did to Francis Ngannou. Though we understand Ngannou is not really a boxer, but in the space of 2 rounds, he was able to knock him down. And for me, him coming up with this punching power and knocking out opponents, during fight, I think for me, you definitely see that Joshua has really improved in terms of his punching power and also his agility and tactics as well, in the ring. So for me, I think he has what it takes this time to be able to get, the victory against Dubois.
Well, let's go to football there. It starts from the local scene where coaches, after match day 2 of the Nigerian Premier Football League, are beginning to review their teams. One of the coaches, Bas Magood of Plateau United, is saying that his players are getting to understand what it takes to play again in the Premier League after 12 additional players were added to the team for this season.
Of course, you expect that when you, of course, offload players and bring in you definitely want to give them the opportunity.
But why do you bring in players in such number? That is a full team. What could have happened to the team before? You inject 1, 2, 3, 4 players in positions that you want to improve, but not having a wholesome change. For me, the wholesome change looks very expensive in the first place, and it takes a longer time for players to, to gel as a team.
Well, that's look normal here in the Nigerian Premier Football League. It's what we've seen over the years, where teams will just, on a particular window, offload about 20 players and bring in about 20 to 25 players at that moment and expect them, of course, to gel. And that's what is affecting some of the team. Plateau United is one of them. Heartland FC, they're one of them. They brought in about 25 players, new players into the side. And if you take a look at it...
A new coach as well.
A new coach. So if you take a look at it, this actually has a way of, hindering the performance. They've lost back-to-back, in the last 2 games we've seen in the Nigerian Premier Football League. So I think for me, from what Mangood is saying, yes, the players need time to gel. He also needs time to instill his philosophy, into the team. At this point in time, I think coaches as well should start looking into it. It's not just by, bringing in new players, bringing new set of players, and also taking the ones you have, out. You need to make sure that you sign good contract with these players and then improve them, make them train, let them improve. Because I just feel that the reason why some of these coaches, of course, offload, maybe some of this team offload these players is as a result, maybe they're not seeing a very impressive performance with them. But that is not just what it is. You have to make sure that you see how these players, can improve. Another thing is about contracts signing. Some of these MPFL players, they just want to get the team to play. They don't even pay much attention to details, because in a situation whereby you have a very good contract detail with a particular team, they can't really push you out. But at the end of the day, you see them sign because you just want to play and earn money. At the end of the day, they offload them and they go. So I think for me, the MPFL board should look at this. It has a way of affecting the performance of the team and also as well the league.
It's not only Plateau United. It looks like the common practice in the top Premier League side. Rivers United as well have over a dozen players, injected into the squad, and Coach Finidi is talking about cohesion problem as well in the team.
Yeah, cohesion problem, has been the team, but though Finidi, of course, has actually found a way of tracing how to navigate.
He's a new coach as well in the squad.
Yes,
the coaches are new, and of course the players are new in
as
numbers.
Well. But in the last 2 games, I think Finidi has, tried to see how to navigate through that issue. We saw the first game against Bender Insurance. They had a draw despite being 1 man down. The second at the Adoke Messi Stadium, they were able to beat Heartland, FC with a very good score margin in that particular one. But it might not go rosy for him when he tends to meet, strong side like Enugu Rangers, Remo Stars. These are teams, of course, that could possibly give him that much of a tough time. So for me, I think they should look into this, not offloading players and bringing new set of players. They should see how to make sure that they are able to work with these players, for seasons before, letting them go. I think for me, if we try to see how to imbibe that culture down here in the Nigerian Premier Football League, the league, of course, will have a very good shape, and players will have that confidence in staying in a particular team.
Talking about the Nigerian Premier Football League, there's the hint that former captain of the Super Eagles of Nigeria, Ahmed Musa, wants to return back to the Nigerian Professional Football League. You remember, he's been with Kano Pillars twice, and now a lot of people think that he's hinted of a move to Rangers International of Enugu. That can be, I'd say, a crap-pulling presence for Rangers and their new player, Ahmed Musa, if he does sign the dotted lines.
Yeah, definitely. It will be a very impressive one, cheering one for the MPFL fans, and it will also give a good shape as well, to the league. Remember when he came back the second missionary journey to Kano Pillars, we saw how the fans, of course, always trooping to the stadium, of course, to watch the man before he actually got a move, to play outside the country.
He had a contract with his last contract, I think, was with the Silver Sport of Turkey. Is this contract being repudiated?
Has been terminated due to, I think, poor performance, as well. So now, since February, the man has been without a club, and he's been in the country. And for what it is, joining Enugu Rangers, I think for me, will actually give him that edge of still being more competitive, and also see how to see if he can get, to play outside the country once again. He's 31 years of age, and for me, it will be too early for Ahmed Musa, of course, to retire or to call it a quit in his football career. For me, I think he still has a lot to offer. I think to add more color to Enugu Rangers, looking at their fine form so far since last season, and as well as what they're doing currently, of course, in the continent, Ahmed Musa will definitely add more shape, of course, to them. Not only to Enugu Rangers, I think to the league entirely. Seeing such a player playing in Nigerian Premier Football League will go a long way in at least attracting fans, to the stadium, not just to Enugu Rangers, but to the Nigerian Premier Football League. Everybody wants to see Ahmed Musa play, and what could be, of course, his performance. He's a man that has much experience. He has journeyed around the football world. He's a man that's played for CSKA Moscow in Russia. He's played in England, for Leicester City. He's also played for Al Nassr in Saudi Arabia. So he has the experience to be able to see what to do this time in the Nigerian Premier Football League, especially for Enugu Rangers International, for Enugu Rangers this time.
Well, if Ahmed Musa does sign for Rangers International, you can be sure I will buy the next ticket to watch that encounter. Meanwhile, let's continue to bring you one or two stories more, talking about the Nigerian League, but maybe we're running out of time. Let's quickly maybe stay out of that. Kingsley, Nigeria is supposed to meet Libya in the next few days.
Yeah.
And Libya now suffered a casualty because their head coach has been fired. Militarily, Sredojevic of Serbia has been fired by the team.
Yeah, poor performance. Didn't do well in the last outing in the 2025 AFCON qualifiers. They lost to Benin Republic 2-1, and then drew against Rwanda. I think they are seated bottom in that particular group, as it stands. And they have to, of course, let the man go, because they don't think, of course, he's getting what he actually doing what they want. And the Libya is a side, of course, that at least you expect a little bit of performance from them. But it definitely, of course, you see it to be a very tough one. Seeing the group where they are, then a group where you have Nigeria, you talk about Benin Republic, you talk about Rwanda. It's going to be probably a difficult one for Libya. The coach wasn't able to ground out a very good result in the last two games, so that's, of course, they're letting him go. For me, I think they should have given him more time to see what to do. But you talk about Libya in that group, it's going to be difficult for them to skate through. That's what I'm saying, because the teams there are very, very tough. Can they beat Nigeria? Can they beat Benin Republic? Even Rwanda, they drew it. So for me, I see it to be a very difficult one. But it's football, anything can happen. You could probably see a new manager come and then change the narrative. But for the current coach, I think it was an unfortunate outing for him in the last two encounters. I couldn't grab the results, and they have to relieve him I think come October, we'll be seeing Libya against the Super Eagles of Nigeria, and we'll see what they'll be able to do this time around. But for me, I think the Eagles still have an edge. Whichever the Libyans, of course, will be bringing as head coach. I just feel that the Super Eagles still have an edge over them.
Super Eagles have an edge over Libya, but that will be answered in the next few weeks from now. And let's now quickly go to the UEFA Champions League. Actions were in place last night across 6 centers. Of course, you know that is a new format for the UEFA Champions League now. It's in league and no longer in groups. After this group stage, we have qualifiers that will go into the round of 16. But one match last night that got everybody working was an encounter that produced 11 goals. UEFA Champions League fixture producing 11 goals. Bayern Munich scoring 9 of the goals, while their counterparts scored only 2. Dynamo Zagreb scoring 2 of the goals. Kingsley, 11 goals in one match. What do you have?
I tell you, Bayern Munich, they've been, flying very high this season under their new coach, talking about Vincent Kompany. No one expected, this level of performance immediately from Vincent Kompany. But I think the Bayerns are very much ready this season from what we've seen at this point in time. 9 goals in that encounter against Dynamo Zagreb was something very, very, spectacular for them. You see Dynamo Zagreb. Dynamo Zagreb, on the other side, they also have this UEFA Champions League pedigree. They've gotten the experience. So for Bayern to be able to go that length in putting up 9 goals in that encounter, yes, you would say they're at home. The fans, of course, were on their side. But I tell you, it takes a brilliant performance for you to be able to get a certain number of goals. For me, it was really a spectacular performance for them. And one thing we should understand is the fact that this season UEFA Champions League is that in every match, every team, of course, wants to gain points. They want to gain that high number of goals, because at the end of the day, it is the first 8 teams that will qualify, of course, in the next round. So every point, matter. Every goal you score also matter at this point in time. And that's what we're seeing from Bayern Munich, not taking it lightly from the first game of the UEFA Champions League this time. And from what we're seeing, I think is a statement of intent that Bayern should be the team to watch out for going forward in this season UEFA competition.
Bayern Munich, no doubt, trailing there, 9 goals against the opponent that scored only 2 on the night, and Vincent Kompany. Let's see how far he can go with a goal. We told you about 28 goals scored across these 6 venues. We had Liverpool scoring 3 goals after conceding early in the very early minutes of that encounter. 3-1 it ended last night.
Yeah, 3-1 it ended last night, and a good result for Liverpool, picking the points away from home and putting such an impressive performance against AC Milan, who are looking like a team that are coming up a little bit this time.
AC Milan, after Real Madrid, they have a better pedigree in the UEFA Champions League.
Yes, they do. They do. And for me,
they capitulated in their very first game.
Yeah, and it was even at home. I think for me, it was a very poor outing for them in the first encounter. Though they still have more games to play, but just like I mentioned earlier, you understand, picking a point from your first game really matters a lot, because it will count for you. This is not like the group stage encounter where you say, okay, maybe if you don't get a point at home, maybe or away you can get a point at home, and then see how you can top the group. You have to play this one to see how you can get that top 8 qualification. This time is like a league format, so I think every teams are on all the teams are on their toes to see how they can get something. And for me, it was an unfortunate outing for AC Milan, that one, but I think it was a good one for Liverpool, getting down to Italy and picking up that 3 points for themselves was such, of course, a brilliant one for them.
Well, talking about the UEFA Champions League fixtures last night, Aston Villa traveled all the way from England to Switzerland, and they beat Young Boys by 3 unreplied goals.
Yeah, for me, it was a very good one for Aston Villa. Owner Emery tried to see how to put it right this time. Last season, he was able to take them back to the UEFA Champions League after so many years. And now, the first game against Young Boys from Switzerland is taking all 3 points. 3 unreplied goals in that encounter. An away game, of course, you will say. That's to tell you that Aston Villa, of course, one team you definitely have to look at for this time around. Under owner Emery, you see, they have what it takes, of course, to be able to put up a very good challenge. We saw them over the weekend where they were able to put up a comeback against Everton, and now heading down to the Champions League. Yes, you will see young boys, not that of a big team, of course, to play ball. Aston Villa not been in the Champions League for a very long time, coming back and beating young boys who has been consistent in the Champions League. You will say that's a huge statement for Aston Villa under Unai Emery. Let's just see what, of course, they'll be able to do this time. And I think for me, the English teams in the Champions League this time, I think they are ready this time to see how to correct their errors. Remember last season in the UEFA Champions League, we saw them falling short of their performance. Even Manchester City didn't get to the final, last time in the UEFA Champions League. So for me, I think Aston Villa, you talk about Manchester City, you talk about Liverpool and Arsenal, they're trying to see how to put things right this time in the UEFA Champions League, and we'll see how far they'll go.
Well, we saw Juventus beat PSV by 3-1. Juventus starting well at home. Yeah,
starting well at home, despite not being consistent for a very long time, as it stands. But I think putting up that performance at home is a statement for intent for the old ladies. We hope that they were able to maintain this level of performance, because Juventus, they've not been that Juventus we used to know over time at this point in time. We'll say inconsistency from them. Seeing the likes of Napoli, Inter Milan, taking up the Scudetto away from them this time around. I think for me, it's then time for them to see how to prove a point for themselves. Against PSV, you will see not only a strong opponent for them, but I think they were able to show their class at home.
And last night, we saw Real Madrid beat Stuttgart. Real Madrid, with Hendrick scoring his very first goal for the team.
Yeah. It was a very disturbing game, Mr. Surya. I followed that one.
3-1 he ended?
3-1, and Stuttgart scored first. Yeah, Real Madrid have to come back, in that encounter. I tell you, Kylian Mbappe is opening the goal scoring for them. He actually scored the first goal before we saw the likes of Anthony Rudiger coming up, and also Hendrick, putting up a very impressive performance, at the late minutes of that encounter. It was, I think, 80-something minutes. That was where Real Madrid started getting the goals and made it 3-1 in that award. I was really, really afraid, because they were playing at home, and I was like, why are they struggling?
Thibaut Courtois, the goalkeeper, saved them a lot from what we saw last night.
And I was like, why are they struggling against Stuttgart? This is a team, if you take a look at it, they were star-studded. Jude Bellingham, came back from injury. Chouameni, of course, was also...
Especially when we saw Mbappe score first, you would think that they would just continue from that route, but Stuttgart came back to equalize and, stay strong in the encounter till towards the end of the encounter.
Yeah, for me, I think Ancelotti should watch it. Real Madrid, I didn't really expect them to have that struggle against, Stuttgart. I expected it to be a rosy performance, for them, despite looking at the fact that they were actually at home, in that game. So, for me, star-studded, but I think actually to see how to make the game a little bit easier and seeing how they could possibly get those goals. We take a look at the crops of players they have. I don't think they should have been struggling against a certain team, of course, like Stuttgart. But it is what it is. I think Stuttgart as well, they are not that of a minnows. Before they qualified for the Champions League last season, had an impressive performance. So you want to give them that opportunity of also putting up a very impressive performance. But it was a struggle for Madrid, but I think they have to show that champion mentality to see how to get past that encounter yesterday. But for me, they should watch it going forward in the game.
Carlo Ancelotti, coach of Real Madrid, no doubt one of the most, in fact, the most successful coach in UEFA Champions League, saying he was satisfied with the comeback of his lad. We saw Lille as well suffer defeat in the UEFA Champions League match played last night. Matches tonight?
Yeah, matches tonight. We've seen some interesting features. Manchester City will be in action against Inter Milan. City will be playing at home, and of course, we'll be looking forward to see them, putting up another impressive performance this time at home. Fantastic start for them in the English Premier League, winning all the games, and I think they're also going to go down to the UEFA Champions League against Inter Milan tonight with that same performance. Erling Braut Haaland not, relenting when it has to do with, of course, his goal-scoring prowess. The man has gotten about, 10 to 11 goals already this season, and that, of course, speak volume for him. Paris Saint-Germain will also be in action against Genoa, and I think for me, it's a very impressive outing, of course, for the coach. Talking about Luis Enrique, who's also looking forward to see how to put up a very impressive performance this time in the UEFA Champions League. Last time, I think he got to the semi-final, and I think this is going to be another opportunity for his side, to put up a very impressive outing. Also have, I think,
Club
Barcelona.
Brugge has the match against Borussia Dortmund.
Yeah, Club Brugge, Borussia Dortmund. Dortmund, don't forget, they were last time runner-up, and I think this time they want to, of course, put up a very impressive performance, for themselves. And this time they don't have the man Jordan Sancho anymore on the side, but I think they still have what it takes to be able to get, past Club Brugge as well.
Sparta Brugge has Red Bull Salzburg to contend with. Red Bull Salzburg, not a very big team, but they have the capacity to hurt.
Yes, a tight game that might not be easy to predict, but we just have to see what comes up from that particular encounter. We hope that both teams will be able to put up their best.
Bologna will take on Shakhtar Donetsk. Shakhtar Donetsk, for me, it looks like a Europa team and not a Champions League team.
Even the Bologna side as well. It's been a long time we saw them in the UEFA Champions League, and of course, we'll be able to see what they will be able to do. But if you take a look at it, Bologna, they had a very impressive form, coming down to the UEFA Champions League this time. And I think they also have what it takes, to put up a very, very impressive performance as well.
Those are the features to expect tonight at the UEFA Champions League. Let's see, like we know, it is a new format of the UEFA Champions League. This is a league format where we have teams qualify for the round of 16. First game to be have been played, second game's coming up tonight. That will be it for this edition of Sports Talk. Kingsley, today is a big day here on Atlantic Television Network. The owner and, of course, CEO of Morrison Communication is celebrating yet another year after completing 365 days. Is looking for. What's your expectation for today?
A lot to do. We expect a lot to do as well. But we want to say, happy birthday to him. He's been a man, of course, that has done a whole lot, especially for Morrison Communication, the Wish FM and Atlantic Television Network. Is a man who is so passionate, about media and as well broadcasting as a whole. And of course, we say, may God, continue to strengthen him and give him the grace to be able, of course, to gain more in life. Well,
Right Honorable Chirigwe, what can I say? Goodness and mercy shall follow you all the days of your life, especially today. That will be for this edition of Sports Talk. We're back at 6 p.m. Nigerian time. Sports Extraordinary here on Atlantic Television Network. We'll take you more in-depth analysis of what to expect in the UEFA Champions League across 6 other venues. Until then, remember, peace and unity are clearly pathways to progress. Always enjoy here on Atlantic Television Network.
Thank you.